Can you explain how book auctions work? I love this question because I know that book auctions seem like a really mysterious thing. And I also have an agent friend, and she's often doing book auctions. So I do have some insight into book auctions, not because I've ever been an agent myself, but because I have been an editor and I've been on the other side of book auctions and seen how they work. So the first thing is that not every book that's going to a traditional publisher goes to through an auction. When it goes to an auction is when a book just hits with editors right out of the gate, and the agent suddenly has a lot of attention on this book, and they know that there are a lot of editors who are interested in picking up this book and publishing it at their publishing house. So when that happens, rather than just submitting it to different publishers and waiting to see who offers, what happens is the agent will submit it and either tell the editors in advance, or as interest comes in, they will follow up and say, okay, this book is going to have an auction. And what that means is that the agent is going to take bids from the houses, and then the agent and author are going to decide who to go with based on the bids. Now, there can be a couple of different kinds of auctions. There can be auction rounds in which you put in a preliminary bid, and then the three, like let's say there's six houses involved in the auction, and there's six bids that come in by the deadline. The agent can then say, okay, the top three bids are now moving to the next round. Your bids were all very similar. So you get to, like any auction, you get to bid again. You get to come to the table with your next bid. Now, if somebody comes in really low, or it's not really a publisher that you wanted to work with, but you were trying to, there's lots of publishing politics. So the agent was trying to be, um, keep the relationship intact with the editor, and they included the publisher, then they can drop the low bids, or the bids that aren't as attractive. So you move the people to the next round and you say, okay, your bids were all similar. What do you got for the next round? And the expectation is that the publishing house is going to come with more money, but auctions aren't always about the money. It can also be about what else they're offering. What else are you going to offer? And what rights are you expecting? So a lot of times in auctions, when you have a book that's going up for auction, it might only go for North American rights, or it might only go for US rights, because the agent knows that they can auction off each right to different publishers in different territories. So you might be auctioning US rights, Canada rights, UK rights, Australia, New Zealand, you can be Germany. So like all the different countries, you can be doing each one of those either separate or grouped together, depending on how powerful the book is and what kind of international appeal it's going to have. So when the agent gets the bids, they may be looking for just North American or just US rights. How much are you going to pay me for those? What other advertising are you going to promise? Are there bonuses that you're going to include? There's just like a whole host of things that can be included in the auction. So when you have auction rounds, then you do at least usually two rounds. It can go to more rounds if, once again, you have similar, or the agent may just say, okay, we're going to decide based on the second round if they don't want to do multiple rounds. So that's one kind of auction. The other kind of auction is just a best bid auction, which means you get one chance as a publisher to put in your best bid for that book. There are no rounds. There's no like do-overs. This is it. You put in your very best bid. And the reason that you might do this is because you want to get it done quickly. You wanted to get this kind of auction done quickly, or you know that there's opportunity for an auction, but there's not going to be a lot of appetite for multiple rounds or for building. You just know that everybody's going to come with their very best offer, and what you get is what you get. So in best bids, what happens is you set a deadline and you say, get your bid in by this date. and then we're going to go through them and we're going to choose best bid. Now, most people think of best bid again as money, but it can be other things. It can include, in addition to what I said before about bonuses, marketing and promotion, also who's the editor going to be? Who is the publisher? Because the author may be trying to work with a certain publisher, and that's the publishing house they go with. So the agent is the person who sets the parameters around auctions. So auctions can happen different for every agent. And what editors are looking for is they're looking for the rules of the auction. They just want the parameters. They want to know, okay, here's how the auction is going to work. The editor does not determine how the auction is going to work. They don't determine the dates. That is all determined by the agent. There is usually not much for the author to do at this stage. They have to wait for the bids to come in, and then the agent comes to them and says, okay, here's what we got. Let's talk over your options. And at that point, there may have already been phone calls that occurred before the auction started, or it may be that the author wants to talk with the editor and see what their editorial vision is before they decide between two very close bids. One other thing to keep in mind is that there may be one publisher who has multiple imprints bidding on one book. When this happens, usually the publisher is going to do what's called a house bid, which means everybody has the same money. Everybody at the publisher at the different imprints get the same money to offer. And then they have to make their offer juicy based on what kind of support they're offering, what their marketing plan looks like, what their promotion plan looks like, what the editorial vision is, who the editor is. Maybe it's a really credentialed editor, and that's going to sway the author towards that house bid. So there's a lot of different layers to auctions. And I definitely missed some nuance that if an agent is watching this, they'll maybe like, no, you forgot to say this. But for an author who's just looking for general information about what a book auction looks like, that is a great overview.